Okay. Call this meeting to order. This is the special session for Tuesday, May 10th of the Arlington City Council. Could we have the roll call, please?
Councillor Erickson,
Here.
Mayor Watkins,
Here.
Councillor Ward Holland. Here. Councillor Eglin. Here. Councillor Brandau. Here. Kevin Cooper is absent at the moment. And Councillor Rose is not signed on. Yes.
All righty. Join with me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Righty, are there any changes or additions to the agenda? Okay. Oh, ordinances, resolutions, discussion and action items. We'll start with letter A, the city charter update.
At the last meeting, if you recall, about a week ago, we went through the majority of the charter. We had two outstanding items to discuss. Nicholas and I wrote on division for city attorney, and that is on your cover sheet of what we are recommending. To make it clear that the city attorney is appointed by the city council, but removes the concern about the office of the city attorney or council managing the employees of the contract city attorney. The other item was to discuss the mayoral term of 2 years and keeping that or changing it to 4 years. Nicholas, thanks for joining us. Is there anything you'd like to add to that?
No, I think you've covered everything.
Mayor, whether 4 years or 2 years. It's not. Don't see it in there.
But no, the provision is not in
Yeah, it's
the
not.
within the document last time of suggesting that the League of Oregon Cities had a 4-year term. But there was a discussion about whether or not we keep our current charter language as 2 years.
We were basically split right down the middle on that.
So maybe the first one is, are you okay with the recommendation about the city attorney?
Question, are those the employees of the city attorney? Are they city employees? Or are they contracted with the attorney's office?
No, we would be talking, like in Walt's case, we would be talking about Nicholas and other members of the firm. So they're Walt's employees or the firm's employees.
This is part of the reason why we wanted to change the language around for the city attorney provision is as it's written, it's designed more for a city that has an internal office of the city attorney, like Portland, for example, where they have the city has hired an in-house attorney who then has in-house paralegals and assistants and aides and whatnot that are city employees, technically. In your case, because you contract out the attorney position, the employees of the attorney are not actually city staff. And so it kind of creates an awkward situation where you have a provision in the charter that the attorney is supervising and appointing and whatnot, because if this, so for example, the city attorney stops supervising their own employees, in this case, we would be in violation of your charter. And it just kind of crosses streams that were never designed to be crossed.
This language here is the old language.
The old
No,
one.
this is the League of Oregon Cities with the concerning language crossed off. So this is the model language with, again, taking out the office of and the reference about supervising or removing employees. Our current charter has no language about the city attorney.
But Nicholas was just saying that the attorney's office wants to have control of supervising their contract employees. Is that right?
Of their employees.
Yeah.
Well, it'd be like telling Walt that to leave it as it's written, it would be implying that we could go to Walt and tell him that he needed to remove his employees. Or we would be making the decision. What they did here was set it up so that we're contracting with the city attorney, but the city attorney's office has control over their office. and their employees. We don't have anything to say about.
City attorney.
Thank you
This
for.
will just be with Walt.
Majority of the council must appoint.
When didn't we discuss about possibly looking out for bid or looking for another firm at one point in time?
Well, this makes it clear that regardless of who we have a contract with, whether that's Walt's firm, another firm, or or if we decide to bring it in-house, the council is in charge of appointing the city attorney, like appointing the city manager and the municipal judge.
And I see that here, but what I don't see is, I guess it's just silent on the fact of the employees, the contract employees.
Correct, it is silent.
All right, I get it. All right.
What benefit is it if this council
Appoints the city attorney.
Yeah.
What it does is it makes clear that the city attorney is an appointed officer of the council and not appointed by the city manager. And that's very common, that the council's in charge and appoints the city manager, the city attorney, and the municipal judge. You have anything to add, Nick?
Yeah, for example, just kind of add context. Some cities also have an appointive office for the city recorder, or they do an appointive office for the city clerk. And that removes that position from under the authority of the city manager and then puts it under the authority of the city council. So in this case, what essentially happens here is if the city manager or city attorney is an appointive position of the city council, it's completely separate from the authority and the administrative authority of the city manager. And that makes the city attorney essentially answerable directly to the city council.
right now, the attorney is
There's no language at all.
right to the city manager, not the council.
There's no language at all in
Oh,
the current charter. So this makes that line and that definition clear.
Okay.
So are we,
Do you need a motion or do we just say yes?
We did everything by consensus so that Nicholas could do a draft. So if we have consensus, and we kind of took an informal poll
Yeah.
when we're
Yeah.
looking at things. But is there anybody concerned about how it's written? No. Everybody okay with it? Okay, then Nicholas and I will incorporate it into the draft ordinance you'll see in June as it is written without the stricken provisions.
then we'll go through accepting that and making a motion to put it out to
Yes,
vote.
as the draft, as an ordinance, yeah.
Okay.
The second item is mayoral terms of 2 or 4 years, and at last meeting, it was pretty evenly split. So we decided for this meeting, we'll keep some time to think about it, as well as include our members who weren't able to attend the last meeting.
For Carrie.
Yeah, and Kevin aren't here and they were two that were they the 4 or the 2? I can't remember.
Counselor Rhodes was in favor of 2. Counselor Skipper was also in favor of 2.
Well, since this is a consensus and not an actual vote, then their vote should still stand, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
I think we're just trying to remember what that was.
Trying, because that,
Well, yeah. We can just,
Can I ask a question? Maybe add to the complication of it, but is that possible to have a limit on the terms? Like regardless if it's 2 or 4? It seems like we don't have a limit yet, right?
That's correct. It's not term limited.
Can we add that to the charter?
Nicholas, do you want to comment to that?
Yes, yeah, we can put term limits in. It was never discussed, so I guess the question is, how many terms do we want to limit to if we do that?
Not really, I was just asking if we can.
I would think too, if we're talking about term limits for mayors, we should talk about term limits for city councilors as well.
that opens up a whole.
I think it's a good idea personally. I don't think we want to have the same people forever here. I don't think it's a good, we don't want to have kings and queens. Endless, I mean, the city.
So with that, just your thought on it, say the mayor can run and hold the position, say for 3 terms or 4 terms, what do you think would be a good number?
Well,
I think it depends, I guess, if we want to.
first you gotta define how many years are the mayor is in there.
I was thinking 2, like, I'm more for 4, because I would allow some consistency in the mayor to learn his job, because it takes time to learn, I assume, especially the mayor that has more responsibilities, and I think a maximum of 2 terms, I think would be ideal.
2 terms regardless if it's 2 years or 4 years.
Also thinking 4, but yeah, I guess 2 could be,
You could do
That's
2
all.
4-year terms is what you're talking about.
yeah.
So limited to 2 4-year terms.
I think it takes some time to get used to the mayor position, even the city council, but.
The counter to that is that if we have 4-year term for a mayor, and we happen to have a mayor that's
Really
very
bad.
difficult, whatever controversial, what, you know, you name it, the council really isn't happy with that mayor, but that mayor is gonna be there for 4 years unless something illegal happens.
Can't the council remove the mayor
No,
if it's
not-
something?
Not unless they violate some ethical rule.
Really?
You just remove the mayor, no.
Well, I mean,
The only way you
If
could do it
it's-
is through a recall, and that would be, you know, a
Yeah,
nightmare.
Yeah, I mean, so that's my concern about the 4-year term.
and we know how that wastes a lot of money.
And I know we had this answer last time, but I don't remember what it was. What's normal? Is there a normal?
There is.
It's all over the place.
It varies vastly.
Some
I-
organizations, for the record, some organizations do have term limits for their mayors or their like the executive head of their organization. And some even do something where a person is only able to have a certain number of consecutive appointments to an office. So for example, you could be mayor twice, but then you have to take at least 1 term off or something like that, so that you infuse new blood in no matter what. But you don't prevent someone from, for example, being mayor once in their 20s and then 30 years later being concerned about what's happening in Carlton and wanting to actually take part again. In theory, you cut them out after 2 decades have passed and potentially it's a very different city.
We had that happen in the city of Albuquerque, where they were term limited to 2 terms, 4-year terms. Successfully ran for both 8 years in, had to take a term off and ran again. And then was able to do another 2 terms.
Because it didn't say once you, 2 terms done.
You couldn't run again. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just consecutive.
Right. Okay, so we have Linda, then we had, going backwards, we had Brian. And before Brian, I believe it was a female lady that was the mayor. Is that right?
Kathy Oria, who was.
Okay, and how many,
Many, many years. How many years?
I mean-
Let's see.
Well, she served in the city for 37, but about
No.
half of,
for the mayor? how
for the
many?
mayor, I think it was about half of that. I think she was at 17 or 18.
So was it just because nobody else run against her?
She had competition and she had people run against her. She just was at every event in the city and was very known in the community. And people had confidence in her during that time period. So,
Mostly.
mostly, yes.
Well, that's
She went
any-
through 1 recall.
Mhm.
Okay. And the only reason we ended up with Brian is because she
Quit.
quit?
Yeah, she retired.
She just didn't run again and he ran.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So
that seems like a long time, 16 years.
But see, I think that's, I mean, he passed on, Don Lear. He was the mayor of Lafayette. Seemed like forever. Years and years and years. Oh,
I guess we're kind of talking about 2 things, right?
two different,
We're
we
kind of-
moved in 2 different.
Yeah.
days.
Yeah, so whether
so
it's.
are we gonna do 2 years or 4 years? Is that what we're trying to, we'd have to do, we have to do a vote on that? Is that what you're
Some
saying?
sort of consensus would be great, because on the timeline, we do have to vote on the ordinance next month. Otherwise, we're looking at potentially having a special meeting in July. in order to meet the timelines of the election.
And as I thought more about it, I don't have my knee-jerk reaction was because when I started, I was thinking 4 years, I'm gonna need 4 years, feeling good. I'm not so sure that that's really, and particularly listening to the council too, that if you have good support, 2 years is probably
So
enough to get you to the point where you're okay, where you know what you're doing. So I don't
Can it
have a
be
problem
3
with
years?
2 years.
Yeah, it could be 3 years. It creates kind of an odd situation because you have the council is on an even number of years, so you would end up having some curious shifting and kind of, it would match up at times and not match up at other times, and there's nothing stopping us from doing it, but it would just be irregular to do that.
I don't know if 3 years would work with the county with their election cycle.
Yeah, that's what I was
Yeah, because
thinking.
it's every 2 years and it
Okay.
would throw it off. You would have to, I think we'd have to stay close to the county's election cycle.
Okay.
Unless, otherwise it'd be a special election, which is a whole nother animal and a cost.
Anybody else? Question?
Yeah, time for 2.
Good for two.
One for 2.
I'll go with 2.
It's fine.
Okay. Then do we want to discuss term limits, or is that something you want to keep out of the charter at this time?
I think if we only have 2 years, if the mayor is not doing very well, she or he won't be voted back in. So I don't know if it's necessary, but
Then, and then as what everybody was saying, we can put some wording in there that says, if you do 2 consecutive, you're done, or you have to give it 2 to 4 years in between, or once you've served 2 years, you no longer can run again. Is that
Nah.
in some towns, areas?
Even 4 year, I mean, if a mayor is 2 years, so that's 2 terms is 4 years.
Yeah.
And even that is kind of a, if you're gonna set term limits, it should be at least 6.
2 terms would be 4
3
years,
terms, it should be
Yeah.
at least that.
at least
I would
3
say-
terms.
I would say,
Yeah,
yeah.
to term limit out, if you can do that.
And I mean that for the council as well. I think the council should have term limits, not only the mayor. I think we shouldn't be allowed to be.
Well, right.
I think we need the other counselors here though to kind of discuss
Yeah,
that.
so you have a good chance to discuss it. It's pretty important.
That's something that we weren't discussing
Yeah.
last time. I'm not comfortable with discussing it without them being here.
I agree. Yeah.
So do you want Nicholas and I to make these adjustments? Nicholas, this last week, has already made previous adjustments that we agreed to in the last meeting. We'll make these adjustments, and then if council decides to have that discussion at the June meeting, we'll see how that impacts our timeline.
Yeah. I think I'm good with that.
Okay with everybody else? Right, that takes us off the city charter. The 447 Grand Talk today.
Right.
I wanted to update you. A lot has shifted even since I last did this memo. And my goal for the ad hoc committee has always been to make sure they're productive. They've got clear direction so that they don't get frustrated. So last thing we want to do is frustrate any of our community members, particularly on a project this significant. And so I had some committee members who were kind of excited about getting the committee going again. And they had some suggestions about what they thought they could talk about. I was working with ODOT and it wasn't real clear about when they were going to start their public engagement campaign. So far, just as an update, ODOT had said that they want to do their first open house sometime this month, maybe early next month. They do want to do a survey, and they've actually asked for a committee to put on that survey. And so I sent that out to the committee. They want to meet and share the results with the committee. I also, in between that update and now, is I am meeting with ODOT, Paul, our project manager, and Anna, the interim area manager, on Thursday to further talk about how the committee and the public engagement side will work together in collaboration. I've also talked to 3J personally and Eve, who's in charge of managing the public outreach for the ODOT project. She's also going to talk to ODOT, and then she and I might talk together to ODOT about, again, making sure the collaborative effort works together and is productive and doesn't go two separate directions. And so that's where we're at right now. So you probably have already read elsewhere in your packet that I'm gonna talk about staff's at capacity for May. So I guess my question differs from when I originally wrote the memo. I'm gonna ask council for some patience through the month of May. Let me talk to ODOT and 3J some more, and then bring you an update in June and see how we wish to proceed. Is that okay?
It seems like, when did they want to have the outreach meeting?
They said in May, sort of develop it, but again, I don't have a clear deadline from ODOT. And to be honest, neither does 3J at this point. So I think we need some more coordination.
Seems very premature to me, because there's so much, that, that we have talked about that we want to see happen with this realignment. It's like having an outreach meeting now. Now, before we delve into that further, be premature.
Of having the ad hoc committee meeting.
No, the outreach meeting.
Oh, from ODOT.
Yeah,
I think they want to start soliciting basic information from people about how they feel about the project, and then take that information and further refine the outreach. But again, I hope to have more information this Thursday when I meet with them one-on-one here.
They might be at a point where they're feeling a little bit like they're not sure if we're doing or talking or having opinions or something going on now, where they want to see that early and find out what's going on. Because I don't think they don't feel like, at least initially, maybe they're feeling more comfortable with the idea of the ad hoc committee, but I know that initially there was some question and concern about it.
And there has been some push from ODOT that the ad hoc committee just be managed and run by the city. And my biggest fear is that will lead to two very different pathways for public outreach and communication about the project.
it wouldn't be what, I'm sorry,
That the city would manage the ad hoc committee and just give them their marching orders and give them direction. And again, my fear is that if we do that and it's not coordinated with ODOT, so I'm not saying we can't do some independent meetings, but if it's not in coordination, we're gonna get mixed messages and end up frustrating our volunteers, our community, and getting mixed stories out there.
Yeah. And if we start a little bit earlier, number one, there's some chance of a little bit more cohesiveness, both in everybody getting acquainted, so that ODOT and the city both are feeling like they're working together instead of once in a while bumping heads and going off in their directions. So probably the sooner with ODOT is probably better than waiting till later. And ODOT might feel a little more comfortable about where the folks in the city are coming from and where the ad hoc committee is coming from too.
So just, are you okay with my new request of patience for the month of May, and I bring you more updates in June after I have some more conversations?
Yeah.
Seeing any no's. Okay.
That,
Work plan, and we only got 5 minutes. So as I mentioned in this memorandum, staff is currently at capacity. We are down, well, we will be at the end of the month down to public works employees with all of our projects going on. We have known components with projects that are already ongoing that we know are forthcoming, like the ad hoc committee and coordinating the public outreach. The civic center work is still going to be going on and then coordination. So I'm also sensitive to the input that we received from Council Goal Setting, that there's a lot of info coming at you and that's challenging sometimes to keep up. And that you want more collaboration and more time for in-depth discussions to balance responsiveness and action. So I have on this list, and there's actually one more item I need to add to this list, is future consideration. With our short period of time, I have a proposal for you to consider. And that perhaps you could go individually and then let me know what you think could be linked to ongoing projects already, like the comprehensive plan or part of the TSP update or another project. And then anything that falls outside of something that you think could be linked, is that you prioritize that and get it to me individually, and I can compile all of that information for our June meeting. And then we can have another discussion about that. And if you don't see it, Christie's kicking me because we have all the budget stuff officially. But given our time today, without saying we're just gonna push this aside, that's my proposal for your consideration.
that works. I mean, that works for me.
That works for you. Council President, not affirmatively, how do others feel? Let's see another affirmative nod.
I'm good.
You're okay?
We don't have time, so I think we have a choice here.
Okay, so if you could take this list and add on there one more item, standards for parks equipment. That's for when developments go in, like JR Meadows, setting standards for developers of what quality of parks equipment goes in. And then if you could take those 20 items over the next week or so and link them either to something that's already going on in your opinion, and or prioritize them and give it back to me. I will work on compiling that for the June meeting.
Okay. That work? All
Thank
right.
you.
Are we,
Quick, 2 minutes to start. 2 minutes to allow people to come in and sit down or
are
start.
we closing this meeting or yeah, we have to close this meeting. Okay, so I need a motion.
Move to close the special meeting.
I have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? No. We're good.
Thank you.
Thank you.